Could a single tragedy change the world forever? What if someone's death actually saved countless lives? These are the stories of how devastating losses transformed safety standards across industries. Number 12, the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory Fire, the deaths that changed labor laws forever. Have you ever thought about who died for your right to exit a building safely? On March 25, 1911, a devastating fire broke out at the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory in New York City. The fire spread rapidly through the building, trapping workers inside. Why couldn't they escape? Because the doors were locked from the outside, a common practice by factory owners to prevent workers from taking unauthorized breaks or stealing materials. As the flames engulfed the building, desperate workers jumped from windows, falling to their deaths on the sidewalk below. Firefighters arrived quickly, but their ladders only reached the 6th floor. The fire was on the 8th, 9th, and 10th floors. The fire escape collapsed under the weight of fleeing workers, sending them plummeting to the ground. When the smoke cleared, 146 workers had died, mostly young immigrant women, some as young as 14 years old. The public was outraged by the preventable nature of the disaster. The factory owners, Max Blank and Isaac Harris, faced manslaughter charges but were acquitted. They later paid $75 in damages per victim in a civil suit. The aftermath changed American labor forever. New York State established the Factory Investigating Commission, which led to 36 new laws reforming the labor code. These included requirements for fire drills, sprinkler systems, accessible fire exits, and doors that opened outward and remained unlocked during working hours. The tragedy became a rallying cry for the labor movement and led to the growth of the International Ladies' Garment Workers Union. Next time you see a clearly marked exit sign or push open a door that swings outward in an emergency, remember the young women who died for these safety features we now take for granted. Number 11, Samantha Smith's death, the child activist whose loss changed aviation rules. Did you know a 13-year-old peace activist's death actually led to major changes in aviation safety? Samantha Smith became internationally famous in 1982 after writing a letter to Soviet leader Yuri Andropov expressing her fears about nuclear war. Andropov responded by inviting her to visit the Soviet Union, turning the young girl into an international peace ambassador during the tense Cold War era. Tragically, on August 25, 1985, Samantha and her father were returning from filming a television show in England when their small Bar Harbor Airlines plane crashed while attempting to land in Auburn, Maine. All 8 people aboard died. The investigation revealed several problematic factors: poor weather, pilot inexperience, and inadequate runway approach lighting. The pilot had only 36 hours of experience flying the Beechcraft 99 aircraft at night and made a descent below the minimum descent altitude during poor visibility conditions. Following this high-profile tragedy, the Federal Aviation Administration (FAA) implemented changes to pilot training requirements, particularly for nighttime and poor weather flying. The crash also prompted improved standards for regional airline operations and better runway approach lighting systems at small airports. The tragedy resonated deeply because Samantha had become a symbol of hope and peace during a frightening time. Both the US and Soviet Union mourned her death. While her life was cut short at just 13, her death contributed to changes that have potentially saved countless lives in aviation. Number 10, the Station Nightclub Fire, when a rock concert turned deadly. Have you ever wondered if the foam padding on the walls of clubs is fireproof? On February 20, 2003, rock band Great White took the stage at the Station Nightclub in West Warwick, Rhode Island. As part of their opening number, they set off pyrotechnics that ignited flammable acoustic foam lining the walls and ceiling. Within minutes, the entire club was engulfed in flames. The fire spread with terrifying speed, filling the club with thick, toxic black smoke. As panic set in, hundreds of concertgoers rushed toward the main entrance, creating a deadly bottleneck. Many became trapped in the narrow corridor or crushed in the stampede. Others tried alternative exits, only to find some blocked or difficult to locate in the smoke. When it was over, 100 people had died and 230 more were injured. It became the fourth deadliest nightclub fire in American history. The devastation was so severe that some victims could only be identified through DNA samples or dental records. The tragedy led to sweeping changes in fire safety regulations nationwide. Many states mandated sprinkler systems in all nightclubs regardless of size. Fire codes were strengthened to ban pyrotechnics in small venues and require clear marking of exits. Training for staff and emergency evacuation procedures became mandatory, and restrictions were placed on the types of decorative materials allowed in public venues. The club's owners and Great White's tour manager faced criminal charges. The tour manager, Daniel Beichel, served less than 2 years in prison after pleading guilty to 100 counts of involuntary manslaughter. The nightclub owners received suspended sentences and community service. Today, whenever you see a brightly lit exit sign or a sprinkler system in a nightclub, remember the 100 people who lost their lives that night in Rhode Island. Number 9. Christine Chubbuck, the live TV suicide that changed broadcast standards. Did you know a news anchor once committed suicide on live television? On July 15, 1974, 29-year-old Christine Chubbuck, a television news reporter at WXLT-TV in Sarasota, Florida, shocked viewers when she pulled out a revolver during a live broadcast and shot herself in the head. Just before taking her life, Chubbuck read a statement, "In keeping with Channel 40's policy of bringing you the latest in blood and guts and in living color, you are going to see another first, an attempt at suicide." The broadcast quickly cut to black, but it was too late. Chubbuck was rushed to the hospital, where she was pronounced dead 14 hours later. The incident sent shockwaves through the broadcasting industry. It was revealed that Chubbuck had been struggling with depression and had even joked about killing herself on air, but no one took her comments seriously. She had been upset about the station's focus on sensational blood and guts news coverage, and her personal struggles included romantic disappointments and her difficulties connecting with others. Following this tragedy, television stations across the country implemented stricter protocols regarding live broadcasts, including delay systems that would prevent similar incidents from airing. The event also sparked discussions about mental health awareness in professional environments and the ethics of sensationalism in news reporting. The station itself faced criticism for potentially missing warning signs, as Chubbuck had told the news director she had bought a gun and made jokes about suicide. The incident remains one of the most disturbing moments in television history and led to significant changes in how broadcasters handle live productions and staff mental health concerns. Number 8. Dale Earnhardt Sr., the racing legend whose death made NASCAR safer. What happens when one of the greatest race car drivers of all time dies on the last lap of racing's biggest event? On February 18, 2001, during the final lap of the Daytona 500, NASCAR legend Dale Earnhardt Sr. crashed into the wall after making contact with Sterling Marlin's car. While the crash didn't look particularly severe compared to many racing accidents, it proved fatal. Earnhardt, nicknamed the Intimidator, was pronounced dead at the hospital from a basilar skull fracture. The death of such a prominent figure, a 7-time NASCAR champion with a reputation for toughness, sent shockwaves through the racing world and beyond. How could someone so experienced in a sport known for dangerous crashes die in what appeared to be a relatively routine accident? The investigation revealed that Earnhardt's head whipped forward while his body remained restrained, causing the fatal skull fracture. He wasn't wearing a head and neck support (HANS) device, which was optional at the time. The device restricts head movement during crashes to prevent exactly this type of injury. NASCAR responded with a series of safety improvements that transformed the sport. Within months, they mandated the HANS device for all drivers. They improved barrier technology, developing the steel and foam energy reduction safer barrier, commonly known as the soft wall, which absorbs impact energy. Car design was also overhauled with the introduction of the Car of Tomorrow, featuring a larger cockpit, moved back seat, and improved crush zones. The safety revolution worked. Earnhardt's death marked the fourth NASCAR fatality in a 9-month span between 2000 and 2001. Since these changes were implemented, not a single driver has died in NASCAR's top 3 national series due to a racing accident. Number 7. The Radium Girls, the shining women whose painful deaths changed workplace safety. Would you believe women once painted watch dials with deadly radioactive paint using their lips? In the 1920s, hundreds of young women worked in factories painting luminous watch dials with radium-based paint. They were taught to point their brushes by putting them between their lips, a technique called lip pointing. The companies assured them the paint was harmless, and the women even painted their nails, teeth, and faces for fun, admiring how they glowed in the dark. The reality was horrifying. Radium is highly radioactive, and as these women ingested it daily, they were slowly being poisoned. They began suffering from anemia, bone fractures, necrosis of the jaw known as radium jaw, and various forms of cancer. Their teeth fell out, their jaws disintegrated, and many developed tumors and died painful deaths. Grace Fryer, Edna Hussman, Catherine Schaub, and other dial painters from the United States Radium Corporation in Orange, New Jersey, began experiencing these symptoms years after exposure. When they sought compensation, the company denied responsibility and even falsified medical reports. The women struggled to find lawyers willing to take their case, as the statute of limitations had expired for many. Finally, in 1927, attorney Raymond Berry took their case. The Radium Girls, as they became known, sued their employer. The resulting publicity brought attention to the dangers of radium and workplace safety. Though many of the women died before receiving full compensation, their legal battle established several precedents. The case helped establish the right of individual workers to sue for damages from corporations. It led to regulations regarding labor safety standards, particularly around hazardous materials. It contributed to the establishment of time limits for workers' compensation cases, eventually resulting in the creation of occupational disease laws. Scientific understanding of radiation poisoning advanced significantly. The tragedy of the Radium Girls played a crucial role in the development of modern workplace safety laws and labor rights protections. Their suffering led to safer conditions for countless workers who came after them. Number 6. The Coconut Grove Fire, a night of entertainment that ended in historic tragedy. Have you ever wondered why revolving doors in public buildings always have regular doors beside them? On November 28, 1942, Boston's Coconut Grove nightclub was packed beyond capacity with approximately 1,000 people, nearly double its legal limit of 460. The club was decorated with flammable tropical-themed decorations, and many exits were locked or blocked to prevent patrons from leaving without paying. When a small fire broke out near the Melody Lounge in the basement, it spread with astonishing speed. Panic ensued as patrons rushed toward exits. The club's main entrance was a single revolving door, which quickly became jammed with people pushing in both directions. Many victims were found piled up to 7 deep at this bottleneck. The fire claimed 492 lives, making it the deadliest nightclub fire in U.S. history. The tragedy occurred during World War II, and many of the victims were military personnel enjoying a night out. Hospital staff were overwhelmed with burn victims, and morgues were filled beyond capacity. The investigation revealed numerous fire code violations, locked or blocked emergency exits, flammable decorations, overcrowding, and inadequate fire extinguishers. The club's owner, Barney Welansky, who had connections to the Boston mayor and the mafia, had managed to avoid safety inspections. This catastrophe permanently changed safety codes nationwide. New laws required outward opening doors for public venues, accessible emergency exits with push bar mechanisms and illuminated signs, revolving doors flanked by regular doors, and bans on flammable decorations. The tragedy also led to major advances in burn treatment and the understanding of respiratory injury from smoke inhalation. The Coconut Grove Fire remains a landmark case study in disaster management, fire safety, and mass casualty response nearly 80 years later. Number 5. Sharon Tate, the murder that changed home security forever. Did you know a horrific Hollywood murder changed how Americans think about home safety? On August 9, 1969, actress Sharon Tate, 8.5 months pregnant and married to director Roman Polanski, was hosting friends at her Los Angeles home. That night, members of the Charles Manson family broke in and brutally murdered Tate along with 4 others: Jay Sebring, Wojciech Frykowski, Abigail Folger, and Stephen Parent. The next night, the Manson followers killed supermarket executive Leno LaBianca and his wife Rosemary in their home. The murders were committed with shocking brutality. Victims were stabbed multiple times, and the word "pig" was written in blood on the walls of Tate's home. The seemingly random targeting of these victims in their own homes sent shockwaves through American society, particularly in Los Angeles. Before these murders, many people routinely left doors unlocked and windows open, especially in seemingly safe neighborhoods. The Tate-LaBianca murders shattered this sense of security overnight. In the aftermath, home security system sales skyrocketed in Southern California and then nationwide. Deadbolts, window locks, and alarm systems became common features in American homes. Gated communities grew in popularity, and neighborhood watch programs spread across the country. The murders also had a profound psychological impact, marking what many considered the unofficial end of the idealistic 1960s. As prosecutor Vincent Bugliosi noted in his book about the case, Helter Skelter, people began locking their doors and looking at strangers with suspicion. Manson and his followers were eventually caught and convicted. While they spent the rest of their lives in prison, their actions permanently changed how Americans think about home security and personal safety. Number 4. Jane Mansfield, the crash that saved countless lives on the highway. Ever wondered why there's that strange-looking metal bar on the back of every semi-truck trailer? On June 29, 1967, Hollywood sex symbol Jane Mansfield was traveling with her lawyer, driver, and 3 of her children. Around 2 a.m., their car slammed into the back of a tractor trailer that had slowed behind a truck spraying mosquito fogger. The car went underneath the trailer, instantly killing the 3 adults in the front seat. Mansfield's 3 children, asleep in the back seat, survived with injuries. Rumors spread that Mansfield had been decapitated, though this wasn't technically accurate. Her death certificate lists crushed skull with avulsion of cranium and brain as the cause of death. Photos of the accident scene showed her blonde hair embedded in the car's windshield, fueling the misconception. The gruesome nature of her death and her celebrity status drew national attention to a terrible highway safety issue. Cars could slide completely under the high clearance of truck trailers in rear-end collisions, resulting in horrific injuries and deaths. In 1967, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration began requiring all semi-trailers to be equipped with an underride guard, a steel bar hanging from the back of the trailer to prevent cars from sliding underneath in a collision. These safety features became widely known as Mansfield bars, in reference to the actress's tragic death. Despite being mandatory for decades, these early underride guards weren't always effective. After further fatal accidents, the standards were strengthened in 1998. In recent years, safety advocates have continued pushing for even more robust requirements, including side underride guards. Mansfield, once known primarily as a blonde bombshell and rival to Marilyn Monroe, left behind an unexpected legacy in highway safety. Her tragic death likely saved thousands of lives through the implementation and continued improvement of these protective barriers. Number 3. Len Bias, the basketball star whose death changed drug laws. What if one person's sudden death could transform a nation's drug laws overnight? On June 19, 1986, Len Bias was on top of the world. The University of Maryland basketball superstar had just been selected as the 2nd overall pick in the NBA draft by the Boston Celtics, the reigning NBA champions. His future seemed limitless. Analysts compared him to Michael Jordan, and a lucrative shoe deal awaited him. 2 days after the draft, Bias returned to his dorm room at the University of Maryland to celebrate with friends. During the night, he ingested cocaine, suffered seizures, and collapsed. Despite emergency response efforts, he was pronounced dead at a local hospital. The autopsy revealed he had died of cardiac arrhythmia related to cocaine use. The death sent shockwaves through the sports world and beyond. Bias was just 22 years old, a seemingly invincible athlete who had never tested positive for drugs during his college career. The timing made the tragedy even more poignant. He died before ever playing a professional game, before receiving his first NBA paycheck. The political impact was immediate and dramatic. With the war on drugs already a major focus of the Reagan administration, Bias's high-profile death became a powerful symbol in the push for tougher drug legislation. Within weeks, Congress began working on what would become the Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1986. This legislation established mandatory minimum sentences for drug offenses, including the notorious 100-to-1 disparity between crack and powder cocaine penalties, where possessing 5 grams of crack carried the same mandatory minimum sentence as 500 grams of powder cocaine. Critics later noted this disparity disproportionately impacted Black communities. The Len Bias law also expanded drug conspiracy charges, allowing prosecutors to pursue cases against individuals connected to drug operations, even those with minimal involvement. These laws contributed significantly to the massive increase in the U.S. prison population over the following decades. Bias's legacy remains complex. His basketball talent is remembered as unrealized potential, while his death contributed to significant and controversial changes in American drug policy that continue to reverberate today. Number 2, the Challenger crew, when a nation watched space travel turn tragic. Remember where you were when the space shuttle exploded. On January 28, 1986, millions of Americans, including countless schoolchildren, watched live as the Space Shuttle Challenger lifted off from Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Among the 7 crew members was Krista McAuliffe, a high school teacher selected to be the first civilian in space as part of NASA's Teacher in Space program. Just 73 seconds into flight, the shuttle broke apart, killing all 7 crew members: Commander Francis Dick Scobie, pilot Michael Smith, mission specialists Ellison Onizuka, Judith Resnick, and Ronald McNair, payload specialist Gregory Jarvis, and McAuliffe. The disaster unfolded in real time on national television, making it one of the most public tragedies in American history. The investigation revealed a fatal flaw in the shuttle's design, combined with questionable decision-making. The immediate cause was the failure of O-ring seals in one of the solid rocket boosters due to unusually cold temperatures at launch time. Engineers from Morton Thiokol, the contractor responsible for the rocket boosters, had warned against launching in cold weather, but their concerns were overruled by management under pressure to maintain the launch schedule. Following the disaster, NASA grounded the shuttle fleet for 32 months while implementing extensive safety improvements. The agency completely redesigned the solid rocket boosters and added an escape system for astronauts during launch. NASA also restructured its management system to ensure safety concerns could not be overridden by schedule pressures. Perhaps most significantly, the Challenger disaster forced a national reckoning with the risks of space travel and NASA's safety culture. The Rogers Commission, which investigated the accident, included renowned physicist Richard Feynman, who famously demonstrated the O-ring failure by dipping a sample in ice water during a televised hearing. The tragedy changed NASA forever and led to the creation of new safety oversight positions, anonymous reporting systems for safety concerns, and a renewed emphasis on the agency's responsibility to protect human life above all other considerations. Number 1, Gloria Ramirez, the toxic lady mystery that changed hospital hazmat procedures. What could make an entire emergency room staff collapse? On February 19, 1994, Gloria Ramirez, a 31-year-old woman battling cervical cancer, was rushed to Riverside General Hospital in California. She was experiencing cardiac problems, and paramedics had already administered medications during transport. When she arrived at the ER, medical staff noticed an oily sheen on her body and a fruity, garlic-like odor coming from her mouth. When a nurse drew blood from Ramirez, she noticed it had a strange ammonia-like smell. The syringe of blood seemed to contain manila-colored particles. What happened next defied explanation. The nurse passed the syringe to a resident who noticed a bizarre odor. Moments later, the resident felt dizzy and passed out. Then, one by one, other staff members began experiencing similar symptoms: fainting, nausea, temporary paralysis, and respiratory problems. Eventually, 23 of the 37 emergency room staff developed symptoms, and 5 were hospitalized. The hospital declared an internal disaster and evacuated the emergency room. Ramirez died that evening from kidney failure related to her cancer. But the mystery of what caused the mass medical staff illness triggered multiple investigations. The initial concern was some kind of chemical weapon or contagion, leading to extensive testing of Ramirez's body by hazardous materials experts in full protective gear. After months of investigation, scientists from the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory proposed a theory. The combination of oxygen given by paramedics, medications, and her body temperature created a chemical reaction that converted dimethyl sulfoxide, DMSO, a home remedy for pain that Ramirez might have been using, into dimethyl sulfate, a poisonous gas. Though this theory remains contested, the Toxic Lady case led to significant changes in hospital hazardous materials protocols. Many emergency departments revised their procedures for handling unknown chemical exposures and implemented rapid isolation protocols. Hospital staff received enhanced training in recognizing and responding to potential chemical contamination. Some facilities even installed special ventilation systems and decontamination showers near emergency departments. The mysterious case continues to be studied by medical professionals and toxicologists, but its impact on emergency response protocols has potentially saved countless healthcare workers from exposure to hazardous substances. Ever wonder how many other safety regulations exist because someone had to die first? How many daily protections do we take for granted, unaware of the tragic stories behind them? And what dangerous situations might we be overlooking today that will only be addressed after the next preventable tragedy?